Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great edition of my Grue Rume Show. And for the Grue Rume Show today, I got a very awesome guest. He is a professional wrestler, a training, a commentator, a producer, a ring announcer. There's nothing in the wrestling world that this guy hasn't done. And I'm talking about, hey, Ricardo Rodriguez, as he was known in WWE. Hey, Zeus Rodriguez, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him about his wrestling experience, about his time in WWE, and anything else. I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Room, and my interview will be coming up very soon. This is my Grue Room, and as always, welcome to my nightmare. So stay tuned. All right, buddy. Welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time and coming on. I appreciate it.
No, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you, man. So, like the first I want to start out asking you is like, what drew you to this great sport? Like, when did you start loving it?
I grew up watching Lucha Libre as a kid. Hence where my love for Lucha Libre and the mask and then the elegant the pageantry, the elegance, the finesse that comes with Lucha Libre. Growing up and then living down in Mexico and then watching Lucha Libre with my cousins, my grandpa, being around that kind of environment is what kind of sparked that love for it. When I came back up to the U.S., it wasn't as available to me as I was growing up. So I kind of got out of it for a little bit and then started playing soccer. So I did soccer for 12 years or so, roughly, about. And then from there, little by little, I started getting more into pro wrestling again. Like towards the end of high school, after high school, I started getting into it again, and so I started doing the whole backyard wrestling deal with a couple of friends of ours, and then from there, I ended up going to go get trained, uh, and then I've been on this crazy journey for the last 18 years. But I mean, I've been involved with sports since I can remember.
Wow. Okay. And like there were so many luchadors like to watch and icons and legends and like Blue Demon,
Mhm.
Mil
Mil
Mas.
Máscaras, yeah, Mil Máscaras, Blue Demon, El Santo.
Yes.
Conan actually yesterday posted a Twitter thing and X, and then he's like, "Who's the Mount Rushmore of Latino wrestlers?" And then I saw a whole bunch of names, and a lot of them were wrestlers that were just here in the U.S. But I think that's the only part well, he didn't put his full Mount Rushmore. He just put like Eddie and Ray, which clearly, yes, I agree with.
Oh yeah.
And then I was reading some of the comments, and a lot of them were just folks that were just here in the U.S. And while they were amazing, talented wrestlers, I feel that it would be a disservice to other Latino wrestlers, luchadors specifically, who revolutionized lucha libre and made that crossover, and then made it mainstream. You go look at guys who, like for instance, Blue Demon
Yes.
and El Santo, who were one amongst the first that started making movies in Mexico.
I know. Yeah.
You have guys like Mil Máscaras, who was the first to come over to the U.S. and make it, that big of a deal. I mean, Mil Máscaras was the very first luchador to wrestle at the Garden in New York. He made a whole lifestyle of being in Japan. So he brought a lot of eyes internationally to lucha libre, and that was way back in the day. So we look at guys that were revolutionary and revolutionized the industry for a worldwide audience. And then I would definitely have to put, for me at least, Blue El Santo, Eddie, Ray, Mil Máscaras, and I would definitely have to put Místico. Because
Yeah.
Místico in the 2000s, Místico did for Lucha Libre something amazing. And he was the John Cena, he was the Hulk Hogan in the 2000s. And even still now, I mean, after his time in WWE, and then he went back to Mexico, with CMLL, he's doing an amazing job with it again. And I'm proud that I get to have worked with him, and I get to work with him currently at MLW, because
Yeah.
we had a lot of time together in WWE. So to me, Místico, Rey, Eddie, El Santo, and Mil Máscaras.
Oh yeah, definitely. Those are amazing choices. And I saw like when you first started out too, you wrestled with a mask on. Like when did you decide to stop wrestling with the mask?
When I got signed, so I used
Oh,
to wrestle under the name of Chimera.
oh wow! Look
Um,
at the mask. I love it.
So that was, well, this is not the original one. I'm at the school. So I have the original one on a mannequin in my original gear.
Nice.
But this is one of the later ones that I had. Um, but obviously, I mean, growing up around lucha libre, that was always my passion and my love, and so I needed to commemorate, obviously, my passion, my love for lucha libre, my culture of the mask, and and what it meant and the origins of it, and so yeah, I had to come out with the mask, and then obviously when I got signed to WWE in 2010, the Chimera character had to kind of take a back seat, and then
Yeah.
Ricardo was born. So Ricardo was born at that point, and then this is where we are now.
Nice. And when you were wrestling like the local leagues and stuff, you were part of the young stallions cup. How was how was that like?
The Young Lions Cup was a nice little tournament in Chikara. I was very thankful that I got a chance to be on, what was it, 2006 or no, 2007 or 2008, one of those two. I think it was like the Young Lions Cup 7, I think, 6 or 7.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, I got to wrestle Cloudy on that one. He was and I know he's still around. I got to wrestle Cloudy in that one, but also on the same card, you had Brody Lee, Eddie Kingston. I think was the second night. I mean, obviously the main names of Chikara, Mustafa Ali, Lince Dorado. They wrestled each other that night. Um, I'm trying to remember. I mean, all the ants were there. It was, obviously, this is my first time that I got to work on the East Coast too. So I came out to Eastern Pennsylvania, and that was
Hmm.
my first time on the East Coast too. So it was an experience that I'll never forget. I'm very grateful for the way that Cloudy had set up the structure of the match. And there's something that he said to me that day that I still carry on to whatever to what my job was, and one of my jobs in WWE was working with the extras. And then I remember he said something when we were calling the match. He's like, "What do you want to do? People here
Oh,
already know me. I don't need to do anything. They already know me. So you show off." I was like, "Cool, awesome," and I appreciate that. And then I gave him some ideas. He tweaked them around, and so the finish to that match was something that I came up with, and then he was all for it. And I'm glad that he
nice.
went with it, because it became a thing on the independents after we did it. It wasn't the first time that I had done it. I had done it prior in XPW in California
Hmm.
with a friend of mine called LTP. It was an inverted Canadian destroyer that turns into like a tombstone
Yes.
pile driver. So we had come up with it, and then when I went to Chikara, I had mentioned it to him, and I showed him, and then he's like, "Yeah, let's do that." And then obviously it just became a thing that I see it on the indies now quite a bit too. Um, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so then one of my jobs in WWE was I used to work with the extras. So I would do the extra work with William Regal. Sorry, my phone's going off. I would do the extra work with William Regal, and every now and then he'd be like, "Hey, get in the ring with this person or whatever." Or if he likes somebody, he's like, "Hey, go call a match with them." So and I would carry on the same concept. I was like, I don't need a job here. I already have a job here. You're the one that wants a job, so you tell me what you want to do, and then I'll just put it together. And yeah, so then this concept of not being selfish,
Hmm.
came about, um, because it's not always about you. And also, my job became later on to help out the younger guys, and then that's something
Oh
that
yeah.
led into later on. So the guys that were coming up from FCW or NXT, they would put them with somebody like myself, Chavo, he, TJ, Brian Myers. We were those guys. At the time, also Regal and Goldust. We were those guys that they would put the newer guys with, to help them. So taking that role was pretty cool. But yeah, so that's the long story. That's kind of
Oh
how
no,
the
that's
whole thing with
great.
Chikara. That's the whole thing with Chikara. But it was a cool experience. I loved it. I wish I would have been able to come back um, afterwards. That was my only time in Chikara, but I'm kind of grateful the way that life took me because after I think it was after that I did like tours in Germany and Europe. Was constantly in and out of Mexico. And then, like I said, 4 years later, after being starting training, I got signed by WWE. So
Yes. So when you got signed there to the WWE, who was the one that called you and basically signed you?
well, I did a tryout. So I did a tryout, and then I've mentioned this in every other podcast I've ever done. So I did a tryout, and then basically at the end of the day, when we were done with the tryout, the guy who was in charge at the time, his name was Ty Bailey, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, and he basically laid it out without asking. He was just kind of getting some info, and so it just kind of went to that, and then the following that evening during Raw they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, can you make it tomorrow for this thing that we're doing, which is the Ricardo Alberto thing?" I was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
sure, I'll make it out there." So then I went, I did the thing, and then we did a double taping. And then after the second taping, they pulled me into the office and they're like, "Are you under contract anywhere?" I was like, "No." They're like, "All right, so this is the plan. We're gonna send you to Alabama to do your medical, and then if everything goes well, we'll do a background, all that other stuff. If everything goes well, then you're gonna be signed, basically." So I signed the initial paperwork there, and then I did my medical, and then 3 months later I got the call. It was about 3 months after, roughly.
Oh wow.
I two yeah, like 2 or 3 months, something like that. I got the call that I was like, "Hey, everything came back. You're good to go. Go to Tampa." Uh, I was like, "Awesome." So and but my story was different though because typically you get signed, you go to FCW or in this case
Yeah.
NXT, and then you work your way there, and then eventually, if you find something, you get pulled up to the main roster. I was backwards. I got signed on the spot, and then I got put on TV immediately the next week. Well, basically, as soon as I did my tryout, I got put on TV the next day, and I did the double taping, and then I was on Raw the next Monday. So I would just kind of be like, they just kind of went here, see what happens. And I'm grateful that I didn't sink, and they kept me around for close to 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And like when WWE first signed you, like like they put you with Alberto Del Rio and as
Mhm.
his personal his personal ring
Announcer.
announcer,
Yeah.
and you were used to actually wrestling. Like,
Mhm.
were were you happy with that role at first of not being an active wrestler every week?
So I mean, I've touched base on this on, like I said, on every other podcast I've ever done. So I mean, yeah, at first I obviously, of course, I wanted to wrestle. But I was just happy. I was happy being there. I was officially a WWE superstar per
Oh,
se. So I just kind of took it for what it was, and then, um, but yeah, no, I mean, at first it took a while to get used to the fact that I'm not wrestling anymore. Um, so then when I was down in Florida on the 2 days of the week that I was in Florida, I would go train at FCW, and I would just get in the ring and I started getting assimilated with like Norman Smiley and Steamboat, and I was training with them. So Steamboat, Enrique Steamboat, and Norman Smiley were my trainers down there.
nice.
And I would go on those days just to roll around, and I would stay as long as I could just to get in the ring and just move around and learn from them. So I got a chance to learn a lot from Ricky Steamboat and from Norman Smiley, who were my main go-tos. Um, and then eventually with time, I kept asking the office. I was like, "Hey, on a Thursday," because they would tape FCW TV on Thursdays. I was like, "Can I get a match? Can I work? I just want to wrestle." And then eventually they put me on a match. I think it was like December 10th, I think, that I had my first my it was December something that I had my first match in FCW, and then from there, I think at first they didn't realize that I knew how to wrestle, or at least I think I know
Yeah.
how to wrestle. They just thought, even on the main roster, they just thought that I was just legit a ring announcer, and I've never done that in my life prior to WWE. Um, so I had even on TV before Raw and before SmackDown,
Mhm.
uh, before all the boys would get to the ring, I would get in the ring. I would just move around. I would run the ropes. I would flip around. I would grab somebody, and I would just move around with them, just because I wanted to move around. I wanted to be in the ring. And then eventually they started seeing that I was somewhat knowledgeable in the ring. So then they started putting me in situations, and it just kind of went from there. They started giving me little opportunities here and there, and then it just became a thing.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And like I wanted to when you wrestled, like you were in a tag match against John Cena, and
Yeah, Bret
at that
Hart.
time Bret the Hitman Hart was
Yeah.
just coming back to the WWE after all that bad blood and stuff. And what was it like to actually be one of Bret's matches when he came back to WWE?
At first, I thought they were joking because we were in Canada. We were in Canada, and Alberto and I were at the gym, and we both get a text, and it says tonight on Raw it's gonna be Ricardo and Alberto versus John Cena and Bret Hart. And at first we looked at him, we're like, "What? Come on, what?" And I thought they were joking, so I was like, we were both expecting the LOL or the JK or whatever afterwards, but we never got it. So then we called them and we're like, "Hey, is this legit?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, and I mean, I always carried my wrestling gear. I always carried my wrestling gear just in the hopes that one day
Yeah.
something will happen. And I happened to have it. And then I told them, I was like, "Hey, I have my Chimera gear." Um, and they're like, "Oh no, Ricardo's not a wrestler, so we need to like dress him up somehow." And I remember that there was a women's sporting goods store like in the gym. So so then I ended up buying a bunch of like leggings for women because the women's were a lot more colorful than the guys. The guys, well, they
Okay.
have leggings for guys. So I ended up buying some women's leggings or whatever Spanish, whatever they're called, the workout pants that they use.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, and then so I grabbed a couple of them, and then when I went to the office, I was like, "This is what I have. Which one would you guys like?" And then they gave me they chose on the one that I used, but yeah, that was a very surreal moment. We had already worked with John Cena several times, so
Yeah.
I was very excited to always be in the ring with him. Because we had done stuff in live events, and obviously Alberto was feuding with John, so I had taken the AA thousands of times at that point. Um, but just to be in Canada, to be doing this promo with Bret Hart, and then to be in a match with Bret Hart, and then to be put in a sharpshooter by Bret Hart, that was a surreal moment. And then to this day, I am still Bret Hart's last TV match.
Wait,
I'm proud
really?
of that. I don't think Bret is, but I'm proud of that. So
Wow, that's really awesome. You're the final match of Bret
it
Hart.
was
Like,
his, yeah, it was his final match. I'm
wow,
proud
that's
of it. I
awesome.
don't think he is, but I am.
Okay. And while you were there in WWE, like another wrestler you were around and got to work, it was C C CM Punk.
Yeah.
And why do you think he has like so much hype from the fans, from the crowd?
Because he's good at what he does. I never had issues. Neither Alberto and I neither had issues with Punk. I think a lot of it has to do with our work rate too. Because
Mhm.
I mean, this is where I'm gonna blow a little smoke up our asses. But I mean, we were legit. We were there to work, and then that
Yeah,
was the thing. I think we weren't there to mail it in. Let's make this work so that we can put on a good event, a good show. And that was a mentality that both Alberto and I constantly had. Like, no matter how tired or whatever, our mentality is like, we're gonna work. We're gonna give this everything that we have. And I think the guys that we got to work with knew that and appreciate that. That we don't care if you're tired, we're gonna work. Because we're tired too, but we're still gonna work. Uh,
yeah,
so and also too, I mean, I think Punk is very respectful of the lineage that Alberto has, with his family and Mil Máscaras and Dos Caras and where he's been and what he's done. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. And then just the fact that I think everybody understood the dynamic that Alberto and I had,
Mhm.
and could have been used for the better of the match. I remember, for instance, for Punk to trust you, I think is big and important too,
Oh yeah.
because they were on the live events, not even on TV, on the live events. We would do this spot where Alberto would like cower to the outside, and then Punk would dive on us, but Alberto would move, and I would catch Punk, and I caught him every single time. So I think after the first time, he was the one that kept suggesting that spot. So I was like,
Oh,
cool. That means that he trusts you, and then that's huge. That he knew I wasn't going to hurt him or drop him. So I think that's very important. And for that stuff like that, I always appreciate Punk. Like I said, I mean, of course we hear the stories and we hear
oh
the
yeah.
things on the internet, but me on a personal level, I never had an issue with Punk. And I'll forever be grateful that we got to spend so much time with them. And the fact that we had our Survivor Series at the Madison Square Garden with Howard
Mhm.
Finkel, and that was a match that Punk beat Alberto, and then that's what started his 430 whatever day title reign. That we were a part of that. So it's little things like that. That those are moments that I'll always appreciate because nobody can ever take that stuff away from
Oh
us.
yeah, of course.
So yeah, but I always appreciated Punk, and I'll always respect him.
Hmm. Nice. And like I loved your feud with Tino, and
Yeah.
whose idea was it, the whole Justin Bieber shirt thing?
So actually, coincidentally, I think this weekend or next weekend, is the like 12th year anniversary of the match that we had at No Way Out or whatever pay-per-view it was. And I hated that match, but I loved everything else leading into it. Santino used to do this little WWE.com video thing. I think it was like I forgot the name of it. It was like Milan Express or something. It was like his little like YouTube show for WWE.com. And we did one where he sat me down and I think we had a really good chemistry because it was all in one take and we were just making it up as we go. And I think that got back to the office and they decided to go with it. And we started doing stuff together. They started putting us in little segments. We had a match on SmackDown, I think somewhere here in Pennsylvania, I think.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and um, and that was on SmackDown. It was legit. Maybe the match was like 3 minutes, the actual match. But man, it was so much fun. That I think that the office, once they saw it, they're like, hey, we can do something with this. And they started putting us in the storyline together, which was awesome. It was so much fun. And then for a split second, legit, I thought they were gonna give me the US title.
Oh,
Just for poops and giggles. Um, it didn't happen, which still would have been nice, um, but yeah, it was so much fun, but it all started from just doing his little YouTube thing. So doing that little
oh,
promo helped a lot because then that sparked something. So I know there's like this big discourse right now on from the guys on the internet of like, why should we do promos? Shut up. Because everybody wants creative freedom, and if you don't use your creativeness, then sometimes people are not going to notice certain things. Um, so if it wasn't for Santino doing that promo and that thing that we did, like that whole storyline would not have been the thing.
damn. Okay. And like you were one of the guys that worked early on with the Shield,
Yeah.
and did you ever think like by working with them, like Roman, Seth, Moxley, like they would be like the three biggest stars in wrestling now?
So I got a chance to work with all of them. I didn't think that the order was gonna be the order that it happened. I knew that they were all gonna be something because I'm very confident they're all talented. There's no taking away from their talent. But I also do know that when the machine is behind you, they're gonna make it happen. And it also helps that obviously again they're talented. Um, I was wrong in my guessing of who was going to get to what point faster. I
Yeah.
honestly, I figured Seth was going to be the Roman, what Roman is now,
Well,
uh,
yeah.
just because he was more of the athletic slash talker, and then Moxley is more of the talker overall, I believe. And then Roman is just fucking Roman. Um, So I figured they were all going to do some big stuff. I just didn't think it was going to be in that order. Um, but like I said, I mean, because I have seen people that are beyond talented, and then just for whatever reason, the machine is not behind them. For what? Why? I don't know. But I have seen, and this is not to take away from anybody and what they do, but I have seen less talented people, uh, for however you want to put that, get pushed to the moon because the machine is behind them.
Oh yeah,
That's just the nature of the beast. I mean, obviously, the machine, the office, excuse me, the office will see things that we don't, and then they'll have a reason or purpose to do so. So that's why they're where they are and where we are. So um, yeah, no. I mean, I don't think a lot of people doubted that the Shield was going to become something big. Um,
yeah. I mean, they became huge, like
Mhm.
single wrestlers, and like once you one outside of the WWE, you went to WWC and you won the belt there, and also AAA. You were with
Alberto.
Alberto again. And
Mhm.
how was that like with both the AAA and WWC?
I had worked for AAA before I was with WWE. It was, I mean, I've done stuff with AAA in the past where it was what they call bot shows, where they were up in like Tijuana or on like the border cities, and
Yeah,
I've been on shows that were AAA shows that we just went, did our thing, and then got out. But it was nice to go back so many years later as Ricardo. It was nice to go back as the ring announcer with Alberto. That was awesome. I know Alberto right now is in AAA and he's doing an amazing job with them, and then he's killing it over there. Uh,
yeah.
I think he has a title match coming up. I think um, I don't know, or no, it just happened. No, it happened already. Dolph won. Sorry, Dolph won. Ziggler, Nemeth, Nick Nemeth. Sorry. But no, that was an awesome experience, and then just to be back and then show my face and hold that microphone that says AAA and have the logo on the bottom of the screen. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, so it was an awesome experience. I got to work with Perro Aguayo Jr., who unfortunately passed away, and in the ring he passed away in the ring, and but I was grateful to have shared the ring with him. And yeah, so that was an awesome experience, and then getting to work in Puerto Rico was awesome too. WWC with Carlos Colon is a legend in
oh yeah.
the world of wrestling. So yeah, forever grateful for those moments and those times.
And then like you own like you run your own wrestling school.
Yeah.
You put on wrestling shows. Like when what made you want to start doing that, like running your own shows and training wrestlers?
Well, I've been teaching since forever. I've been teaching since before I was in WWE. I used to run, well, no, rather, I used to help run a school in California, in LA, two of them rather. For a little bit, I was helping run classes at this one guy's school. His name was Ryan Katz. Is Ryan Katz? He works with WWE at the time. He's one of the head creative guys in WWE. So I was helping run his classes. I also was helping teach over at Knox Pro, and that's Rikishi School in Burbank.
Oh
So during that time frame before I got signed, I was helping out with Gangrel and Orlando Jordan. So those are the guys that I was training with in LA before I got signed. And then obviously during the time I was also helping teach and all that other stuff. And even in WWE, again, like I said, one of my jobs was to work with the guys that were coming up from NXT or an FCW and just move around with them and roll them around. I was working with the girls. I used to work with Alicia Fox, Naomi. Like Natty was awesome to roll around with. So they would put me in these situations, and then every now and then I would go down to FCW or NXT, and I would help there as well too. When I left WWE, I started teaching at two different places in Orlando. I was helping every Thursday. I would go down to like the Dudley School, and I would roll around with some of the guys that were there, and I was helping teach over at Team Vision Dojo, and then at Pro Wrestling 2.0, I was running that for like 2 years or so, or whatever it was. Um, and then from there, I mean, I ended up moving to San Antonio. I went to San Antonio. I was helping teach at Hybrid School of Wrestling, which is doing amazing, and their stuff is awesome. I highly recommend anybody check out Hybrid School of Wrestling because their stuff is awesome. And the growth that they've had in the last whatever, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years has been incredible. I got to go to India. I opened up a school in India, so I opened up Great Khali School, and I was running that for 6 months. And when I left, we ended up doing these big tours. Um, WWE and Impact or TNA went to India after I was done there, because of what we had done. So there was no independent scene back then, and then by the time we were done, there was independent scene now.
Oh, wow.
I did time in Australia. I went to England. I was running stuff. I was helping over there. I wasn't running. I was helping, and I got to learn that process. I went up to Mexico City, so I was down in Mexico City for a bit, and then I spent close to a year in Cairo, Egypt, opening up a school in Cairo.
Wow.
Um, and again, I know I sound repetitive because this is stuff that you can just look up because it's all on social media, of everything that I've done. But then I came here to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and then I was speaking to my business partner, and I had
Mhm.
told him my story, and then basically he just kind of goes, "Well, you've done all this. Why don't you just open up your own?" And we're like, "Well, I'll open up my own." So I started Three Legacies Wrestling about two. It's gonna be 2 years in September. I got the keys in August, and we started training in September. And then we had our first show a month after. So yeah, so it's gonna be 2 years since we started operating here, and then it's been a successful time, and I'm grateful for everything that we're building. I'm grateful for this uh rebirth of not just myself, but of just like wrestling in the area.
Yeah.
While there was wrestling in here prior, it was on a smaller scale. So like being able to bring in more outside folks, and then on a larger scale to kind of get the whole community involved, I think is very important and something that I'm very grateful for. Um, but no, it's been a blessing, honestly, and I'm proud of everything we're building. We have an event coming up on August 3rd called the Red Rose Rumble. This is our WrestleMania, and this
Oh,
is
wow.
our second one. It's at a baseball stadium
Damn.
locally
Okay.
here. So I mean, last year we drew about 2,500. This year we're hoping for more.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, it's gonna be a great time. And then if anybody's near the Pennsylvania area, I highly recommend checking out one of our shows. We are typically at Middlesbrough University, uh, where we do about 600 people roughly at a show. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's just something that just keeps growing, and then we get the entire community involved. We do a lot of community service. We do a lot of fundraisers, charity work. We partner up with a lot of organizations to help out the alcohol and drug rehab recovery. We
Oh,
team up
okay.
with organizations that help with the homelessness in the area. We do a lot of stuff with the food banks around the area. And then for the Red Rose Rumble, we're teaming up with the American Cancer Society just to raise funds and help bring awareness and educate folks on how far science has come, and then how far it needs to go to hopefully one day find cures.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And you also are signed to MLW.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been working with MLW for the last year. It's a little over a year now.
Mhm.
I've been on air talent, and I'm also a producer in the back. So it's another something that I'm proud of what we're doing, and then how far I know I have come on a personal level to learn, to learn from some of the best minds in the industry, as far as matchmaking, psychology, storytelling. Um, I'm proud of what we're able to accomplish there, and then what we're building, and what us as a whole group, as MLW, and what Court Bauer, his vision and what he's doing, and his drive and passion is it's something that I'm enjoying learning a lot from. So yeah, so MLW. I mean, we just did an awesome event in Chicago not too long ago at the Cicero Stadium. We did one like 2 weeks ago at Center Stage in Atlanta, and then the next one is on July 12th in Tampa Bay. So it's this whole amazing thing that is occurring with MLW. This resurgence of talent and storylines and everything that's happening. It's pretty awesome. So check out MLW whenever you guys can.
Oh yeah, like I love how they have like a lot of lucha
Yeah.
wrestling too, and they just got Riddle there, and yeah,
Yep.
it's doing well.
Yeah, it's doing really well. It's doing really well.
Oh yeah, and I always ask my guests this when they're on because I'm a big horror fan. Are there any
Yeah.
horror films that you like to watch?
Oh, dude, I that's like my thing. I love horror
Wait,
movies. I
really?
love anything paranormal, anything
Oh my God,
extraterrestrial.
me too. Yes.
I love that stuff. There's one movie that I think it's dumb as hell, but I love it and I watch it as much as I can. It's called Babadook.
Oh
Uh,
yes,
it's so dumb, but I love it.
I
Uh,
know.
so I watch that like when I'm bored. Um, but yeah, like I said, anything extraterrestrial or paranormal, I'm super into. Sometimes even like the dumb D movies are awesome. There was
I
one
know.
I saw not too long ago. It was of a rubber tire that kills people. It's called Rubber. I think it's called Rubber, and all it does, it vibrates and it just kills people. Their heads explode. Uh, um, there was one of I remember there was one and it might I don't know. I saw a poster for it. I don't know if it's a real movie, but it's like a priest that rides a velociraptor, uh,
Really?
and it's like it's trying to find justice. I want to say that the name of the movie is Velociraptor, um, but yeah, no, but anyways, but yeah, look, so like horror, any stuff, and I live nearby Gettysburg, so
Oh,
this October during Halloween season, I want to go and then do like the ghost tours in
definitely yes.
in Gettysburg. Uh,
Oh yeah, because
I
that's
legit go to
has
sleep.
a
I
lot of
legit go to
ghosts.
sleep listening to horror stories.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'll put on YouTube like Chills or the Nukes Top Five, um, like all that like stuff that like cameras or ghost caught on camera type thing. Um, like there's another one that I'll listen to. His name is Mr. Ballin. I'll listen to him as I go to sleep. Um, he does a lot of stuff like people disappearing in forests type of thing.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so he does a lot of stuff on that end. But what I like about Mr. Ballin, he'll tell stories as if he's just having a conversation with you. So it doesn't sound like he's reading a book. He's like he just sounds like he's talking to you. So that's why I enjoy his YouTube videos. Um,
Nice.
but yeah,
Yeah, like I'm the same way. Like especially around Halloween season, like I do all the haunted houses, the hay rides. I go on
oh
ghost
yeah,
tours. Oh my
yeah,
God, I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's so good, so much fun.
And the last thing that I will ask you is like, where could fans follow you and keep up with the wrestling league and everything else?
Honestly, I mean, if everybody just goes to Facebook and type in, and you have to spell out Three Legacies Wrestling. Just subscribe, share, comment, all that stuff. Same thing with our YouTube. That's something that we're trying to expand on. So if you guys go to Three Legacies Wrestling on YouTube, you'll find all our past shows. You'll see what we're about, what we're doing. We're rebranding our student shows as 3LW Rise. So I want to make it kind of like an NXT type deal, and then build. I mean, yeah, granted, we're in a smaller building, but I want it to get to a point where we start taking the student show out on the road. And we're actually going to start doing that on July 3rd because we're going to be doing a student show at the Clipper Magazine Stadium. It's a free event. If you're in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area, come check it out. It's free. It starts at 8 o'clock. Doors open at 5:30. It's an all day or all evening family friendly event. And then at the end of the night, there's fireworks for the 4th of July thing. So
Wow.
on July 3rd, but all that info is about to go up. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to finish that. And then I have other
Yeah.
stuff to do afterwards. Um, but I'm going to finish the graphic for that. I do all the editing, I do all the graphics, I do most
Oh
of that.
wow.
I have a good friend of mine that helps me out, Tariq Villegas, who's awesome. And he's a huge help in all of this. So him and Looks Media Design is super important to what we're doing too, because he just makes whatever I make and he just makes it 10 times better. So it's super, yeah, it definitely helps to have, a lot of key help that makes this product even bigger. But yeah, so just check us out on Facebook, on YouTube at Three Legacies Wrestling. And then, yeah, we'll go from there.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thanks so much for taking time and doing this.
No, my
It was
pleasure. My
great
pleasure.
meeting you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. Have a really good day
You too.
and weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.